go, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMA Junkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Goes, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Well, let's get it on.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, though he'll be arriving in about 15 minutes or so. Richard Hunter from the Phone Booth Fighting Podcast, chilling in his spot. Back east, handling the producing duties, it's Classy Kelly. To my far right, it is Eric Nicksick, the general manager of Extreme Couture and also head coach to fighters like Dan Ige, Kevin Lee, Francis Ngannou. I've seen you in his corner lately. You got a long list there, Eric, and it's growing by the minute. Vinny Magalhaes, Jeremy Kennedy, great stuff. And, of course, UFC Hall of Famer, former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion, and now current PFL broadcaster, the natural Randy Couture. Welcome, fellas.
Thanks. Good to be here. Thanks.
That was a lot to get out.
Yeah.
You're coaching more people. Randy has all kinds of accolades. Goes is missing. Richard's here. Yeah. Anyway, great to have you guys here. Seriously. What is this, like supermarket sweepstakes? You guys going to go on a reality show or what?
Those are awesome shirts.
Matching shirts over here.
I got to be honest. I've been walking by those shirts every morning for
They're
2
cool,
weeks
though.
now, and every time I'm like, I got to buy one of those. That's a pretty cool shirt. Yeah.
I'll get you one.
Are they at Extreme? You're selling them at Extreme?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's so for those that are just listening, it's basically flames and a boat, but it stands for Burn the Boats. And that's what, kind of like a little bit of a mantra there going on there at the gym?
Yeah,
it's a motto.
Yep.
Yeah, we have a motto there. It's kind of a mindset. We got it from Eric, something that came from his football years. And for me, it always signified there's no escape here.
Mm-hmm.
There is no defeat. It's not an option. So go ahead, burn the boats. We ain't going anywhere. We're just here to win.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? If anybody's ever tried to make a left turn out of Extreme Couture's parking lot onto Sunset, it is kind of like that. That's actually the riskiest part of training every morning is trying to make that left turn going home.
And not get sideswiped by a semi. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Eric, I know you've always, you've shared this with the fighters and everything. And, of course, I was at Monday's practice. You actually had a little group setting with them afterwards, but can you explain Burn the Boats and the history of that?
Yeah, it's something that I think I've always kind of said, but never really got in the sheer definition of it. And there's some guys on the team like Brad Tavares and all of us that kind of understand what it meant. But, it was something that resonates with me because it was something my uncle always hammered home for us. My uncle passed away about 10 years ago, so I say it a lot just to kind of keep his memory alive in a sense, but it also means a lot to us as a team. So we had one of those practices, and you were actually there, and I kind of jumped the guy's shit a little bit. And
Coach Lombardi over here, man.
But, it's just that I feel like it's that mentality and that attitude. We get a lot of guys getting on the stool going into the third round that need to have that mindset of, hey, man, there's no turning back.
Right.
And we prepare in that room that way, and in the fight, that's the way we should end up is on top and beating guys. So that's kind of how we push the pace there, and that was the message I was trying to get across.
MMA just doesn't have the luxury of, like, baseball. You lose today, you can play tomorrow.
Correct.
Basketball, sometimes there's back-to-back, sometimes you wait a day or two, but you can get 3 games in a week. Even football, once a week. You guys, once every 3 months, once every 6 months. Sometimes you just get, that might not even be the case.
Unless you're in the PFL.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, we saw that with Jeremy Kennedy.
Twice in one night even.
On last Thursday, getting on the stool going into the third round. It was a do-or-die round for us, in my mind. And that was the question.
Because it meant playoffs too, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
and
not just the win, the bonus, the playoff, all that, yeah.
Yeah, it was win or go home. So we need to go pull this win out, or we're going to sit our ass on the sidelines for the playoffs.
I've always noticed something. Even whether the coaches are fired up or they're not, the fighter has this look, and I just can't tell if they're absorbing what you're saying or not, whether you're yelling or you're not. What is that look? Is that look just like, you're in that car collision that lasts 15 minutes, and so things are slowing down. Are you really listening? When people have yelled at you, Randy, or what are the fighters giving you as feedback, Eric? Like, what is actually happening? But it's this look. The water's just dripping. There's ice packs, but the fighter's not really looking sometimes at the coach unless the coach really, really jars them. They're just kind of staring down.
I think it's a fine line of knowing your guy, knowing your fighter, because you have to be able to let them have time to relax and give them their time for air and water, but also get that information across to a certain extent to get them ready to go for the next round. If I'm screaming and yelling up the whole time, maybe his heart rate never drops. But sometimes there's a point there where maybe I have to scream and yell at him to make sure he understands that, shit, man, this is it.
Right.
So
that's what I like.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between that. But again, I think it goes back to knowing your guy.
Fighters are listening. They hear everything you're saying. Whether they can process it and whether they can then turn around and go out and actually execute is another thing. But that relationship is built in the training environment. You get used to hearing that voice in training. That's why you need that coach that on a regular, so that you are used to hear. You pick him out of the crowd. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you, and everybody says this about their mom, because you're used to hearing your mom. You can pick your mom out of that crowd.
Wow.
Your subconscious mind is an amazing thing, and it will pick that stuff up. So you're definitely processing. Now, whether you have the gas in the tank and physically can go out and execute that, that's a different story. But
do your thoughts change? Are you ever thinking like, I'd love to quit, but I can't, or this guy's too tough, or I can get him? Like, is it a shift in like positive, negative, or?
I only had that experience one time, and that was when I was fighting Pedro the first time.
Pedro
and Henderson was cornering me, and I'd went out and literally punched myself out in the first round. I thought the fight was going to end. It didn't end. I come back to the corner, and I go out in the second round, and he kicked me 3 or 4 times, broke my nose. I'm sitting on the stool after the second round, and I'm just looking at Danny wide-eyed, and John's calling for seconds out, and Danny looks at me, and I look at him. He says, "What the fuck are you looking at me for? Let's go." And I stood up and went back out and got to work for the next 2 rounds to secure the win. But
right. So a couple negative thoughts did creep into you.
I wasn't.
Like,
I was just tired at the end. I wasn't thinking about quitting. I wasn't thinking about anything else.
Okay.
But I didn't really want to get up off that stool.
Yeah.
I was tired. In
are
that
you
moment.
wondering?
And him smacking me with literally and figuratively re-energize me, get up and go out and do what I trained to do.
Did you ever deal with adrenaline dumps? You hear everybody talk about that, and if you ever did deal with it, did it go away, or is it something that just kind of always?
I think you see that in first timers or newer fighters. It's real common. Their first time in the big show. Even guys, we're seeing guys that are pretty experienced even out the PFL, which isn't a big show yet, but I think it's on his way to being a big show. Mm-hmm. But we see first timers in the UFC. Certainly, that first time out, those lights, that crowd, that it can be overwhelming, and that's where that adrenaline dump happens, and then they can't figure out why they're flat when they're actually fighting in the cage. And it is something you get used to, but it's also something you can mentally and physically prepare for ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Program yourself to be able to deal with that stress in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how often were you thinking if the other guy's fresher than you are? Did you ever stare across to look at?
I never worried about what he thought. I was going to send that message to him. Mm-hmm. The one thing I can control is me. I can't worry about what he thinks. Right. I don't know. It doesn't, and frankly, I don't care. Uh-huh. But I am going to send a message to him. And a perfect example was the Van Arsdale fight.
Right.
Only time I probably shouldn't have fought. I had a really bad staph in my knee, taking IV antibiotics going into the 3 weeks right before the fight. But I'm like, damn it, I'm not pulling out of this fight. It's not happening. So I fought. Probably shouldn't have fought, but I did. And most tired I've ever been in a fight. And I'm standing going into the third round, hands on my knees, which is not regular for me. And I'm like, man. And I look across the cage, and there's Van Arsdale with his hands on his knees, and he's staring at me. And so I make myself stand up and smile at him and wink and put my fist up and start bouncing. And I saw his face drop. Mm-hmm. I mean, in that little nonverbal communication that happened right there across the cage, I could have kept my hands on my knees too, and maybe that would have motivated him to take it up a notch. But me seeing him in that same state, realizing, you know what, I got a lot more, and I bet he doesn't. And it turned out to be the right call.
I was just about to say that too. In football, how many times by the fourth quarter, especially after a long drive, and you look over and if the defense had their hands on their knees, and if you were an offensive player, you were like, keep fucking running it. Keep running it, because they just can't explode like you can, you know what I mean? And you're getting like 6, 8 yards to carry, whereas earlier, you're fighting to get 2 or 3. You're not even getting in the third down or anything, but it was hands on the knees as well.
Well, you kind of hit on our lineage. We actually use that as an example. And in between rounds, when you hear that seconds out, we train for that. We make our guys get up and get on their toes. And that's part of what we learned from Randy Young, being young fighters, is, hey, man, when you look over and you hear seconds out and you're still sucking wind and getting water, and you look over and this dude's bouncing with a smile on his face, that's the mental game that we try to work on that side of it that he just spoke about.
There you have it. All right. Who's next for you? Who are you cornering
I leave
next?
for Vinny on Monday.
Yeah.
Monday. All right. So
Headed
you'll
to
be calling
Atlantic
the
City.
fights?
Yeah, I'm headed out there Monday as well.
Now, he needs this win, right, because he lost the first one.
Yeah.
Top 8 get in out of the 12.
Yeah.
Does he need anything like a win and a finish? Or
I'm not
have
sure.
you noticed
I haven't seen the stats yet. Josh, as I'm sure, is compiling. We'll have all the scenarios laid out for us when we roll in there next week, and we'll know exactly who needs to do what or what needs to happen. It may very well be that somebody he's competed against has to do something too. You just don't know. It gets complicated, like any natural.
He was a machine last year. Everything was like first round submission. First round, so he was like 6-6-6-6.
He was on fire.
Yeah, and you can probably relax a little bit, at least if you get that first win. Not that you want to purposely lose or nothing like that, but you know what I mean. This one, I think, there's going to be a little bit of pressure. For
sure. And, it's just that's what I love about the PFL format. You can, like you said, you can lose your first fight and there's a lot more dire need for the second fight, or you can come back and totally redeem yourself. And I always look back, even in the Jeremy Kennedy incidents, was Sean O'Connell last year. Here's a guy who was getting beat by Ronnie Marks in the first round, had to come back and win. Got beat in the second round, went to the playoffs, got beat the first round of the playoffs, which was weighted as 2 rounds, came back and won, got a knockout, came back and won, got a knockout, beat Vinny, who he wasn't supposed to beat. So this is what I think the PFL. He had a great story. He had a great story, So
Smelinho Rama was the guy that was putting it on him, right? In Long Beach.
Exactly.
And
that's right.
Fight 2 times in one night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you look at this format and it's built for the comeback.
Crazy.
Yeah. I'm excited.
This is year 2, Randy. How would you grade the PFL and the steps they're taking? I mean, that's a steep learning curve.
Yeah. No doubt. And obviously, I think the step up to ESPN this season has been a huge thing. It's a much bigger vehicle. I mean, the other elephant in the room, if you will, the UFC is on ESPN. And I was actually kind of surprised they managed to find a way to get that done. I'm surprised that Dana and the folks at the UFC let that happen. But we're excited to be there. It's a great vehicle for the fighters, for me as a commentator, for the brand in general. It's really, really good. And I think the format is holding up. I'd be honest, I had questions that rebranding year when they showed me what the format was going to be. I was like, damn, I don't know. That's a lot.
Well, what were you questioning the most? Like the points?
Turning around. Not the points, not any of the criteria that they've laid out. That was all really well thought out. And I think that has shown as we've come into some of these weird situations with substitutions and things like that.
You mean the WSOF to PFL era?
Yes.
Okay.
There were 5 fights in there where they kind of brought me into that rebranding period. That's when they brought Kayla on board and kind of built this whole thing around her that's going very well also. But I had my questions about the format, and then I was pleasantly surprised mostly with the fighters that first season and how they stepped up. They embraced that adversity. They turned around every 6 weeks. They fought twice in one night, did a bunch of things that were question marks in my mind. And I was pleasantly surprised and proud of every single one of those guys, whether they won or lost, that fight in that first season.
You mentioned the ESPN Plus app, and I think that's a great point because, these apps are all smart. They know if you like this, you might like that. They customize, just like Netflix does. They customize to your preferences. And, I was DVRing PFL and all that sort of thing, but you go to that app now, and it knows you, so it identifies you as an MMA fan, and we're so close to it, we kind of forget, but there's people out there who are PFL fans, they just don't know it yet because they haven't found it yet, and things like that app help bring them to it.
Yeah.
I think that's a great asset.
We met a couple that was Ray and I were at dinner while we were out there, and they said, well, when should we get there? And we said, we'll get there at the first fight.
Did you go to that spot in Manhattan, your boys?
I didn't.
Well, Atlantic is like 3 hours.
Yeah, that's a long ways.
But it was interesting because hearing Ray explain, he goes, no, you want to get there for the first fight because they all are connected somehow, some way.
Yeah, I don't even call them prelims or main card.
No,
there's just a channel.
Value.
A channel change between Plus and ESPN too, but they're all equal value. Yeah, one of my favorite fighters is fighting next Thursday, which is the 6th week of the 2019 season, regular season, before they get to the playoffs. Boziget, I tell you, I like that guy.
Yeah.
He's got the gray hair going on.
That's the guy that put it on Sean in the second regular season fight last season. That's the guy that put it on Sean.
He trained with us last year.
No shit. At Extreme?
Yeah, he was with us all last season
man.
up until obviously the playoffs because him and Vinny were
maybe
fighting.
my knee or something. Yeah.
But no, he was with us all last season.
Yeah. I like that guy. There's a lot of Eastern Europeans, and if they're not doing media or I'm just not connecting, I'm not with that dude. I've always liked the way he throws his hands.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got a lot of power, and you can tell all the opponents have scouted him. They know to stay away from certain combos or whatever, because if he puts it on you, he puts it on you. So you got Vinny going, and anybody else? Or?
Well, we have Zeke will be out there, Carl will be out there, Franzmir, and then Ronnie. So we have all the guys from Extreme Couture that are going to be out there. My main focus guy is Vinny. Nate Pettit will be out there with us as well. Misha Serkinov's going to fly out to help. So, I mean, we got all hands on deck for these guys right now.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so we'll have a big team out there.
All right, and how many people are in PFL altogether from your gym?
It would be those 5 and then Jeremy Kennedy as well, and then we had Morgan Fryer.
Okay. Almeida's still part-time? Or
Almeida's more at Syndicate now just because of really scheduling.
He didn't make it, right, to the playoffs?
He did not. No.
Damn. He didn't. Yeah, it was a tough one.
That guy's
he didn't make it.
He was at your gym a lot up until like whenever he
Yeah.
stopped going, maybe. But I'd always see him. He was a fixture there.
Yeah, no, it was kind of weird last season, obviously, with him and Lance in the gym at the same time, with the possibility of those guys fighting. But since they've already fought twice, Lance didn't really care, and Lance didn't want me to corner Almeida just for that conflict, and I respected that, and I didn't do it. And then this season, again, like Jeremy jumped in the season, and Almeida just said, hey, man, I'm going to get better work over at Syndicate with John, which is great. John's a great coach, and I think those guys have been together for a long time already, so it made sense.
Mm-hmm. The playoffs are here at Mandalay Bay.
Yeah.
Three
weeks in a row.
3 weeks in a row here at Mandalay Bay in October. And they're still going to do 2 fights in one night. I really like that. I don't know. Do the fighters embrace it at all? Or are they like, oh, this shit? Have you guys gotten any feedback on that?
I think they embraced it, and I think it was interesting. What I found interesting was their different approaches.
Okay.
One guy's like, I'm ready to go now. I want to go right back out. I don't want to wait too long and cool down and have to warm up all over again. Other guys are like, God, I hope I get an hour. I can chill out, and then I'll get warmed back up and go back out. Everybody has their own view of what's best for them, and that's what really intrigued me and what was interesting about it. Ultimately, they're still doing 5 rounds in one night. It's just 2 of those rounds are with
2
one
paychecks,
opponent, and three of those rounds are with the other.
Okay. 2 paychecks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
There was a fighter that was on our show from PFL, and he said, I'd rather fight twice in one night than what am I thinking? It was Jay Haran. Mm-hmm. He goes, I'd rather do what PFL was doing and the fight twice in one night than, remember when he was at Bellator and he had to fight?
Tournament.
30 days later he had to fight again? He goes, bro, my body's just recuperating that next week. He goes, I couldn't get sparring or anything. He goes, I'd rather just do 2 in one night. And at first, I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. Then I thought about it. I was like, wow, the body decompressing and then having to build up again and then the weight cut sucks.
Well, Jay was a mess in between one of those fights. I remember.
He tore his the nose or something.
Yeah.
And Frank Trigg, I think, re-broke it. Yeah.
And Jay was trying to get it to bump a little bit time in between, and Bjorn was like, "Nah, bro, like you're fighting."
That's exactly how he told it.
Oh, that's right. He did tell that story.
He told that exact same
I remember
story, just like that.
It was rough on him that time, But Jay's Jay,
Yeah, but it's funny when we get a lot of the old school fighters talking about their first couple fights and just what a mess it was.
Right.
Some of these promotions that just didn't, they hadn't evolved yet themselves. Those are some of our best shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation channel 156. Stay close. We'll be right back. We have Eric Nicksick and Randy Couture in the house, and don't forget PFL 2019 Week 6 is next Thursday on ESPN Plus at 9 p.m. Eastern.
And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Here's SiriusXM Now, and when you are out of the car, now included with most SiriusXM subscriptions, what you can hear is more of what you love. Get more control of how you listen and how you now have more ways to listen anytime and anywhere you want it. Play personalized stations powered by Pandora based on the artists you love. Just create a username and password, and you're ready to start streaming. Learn more at SiriusXM.com/more. All right, guys, so I wanted to pick your brain on a couple big stories out here. Cyborg. She's kind of brawling a little bit with the UFC, to be more exact, Dana White. I think you know a little bit about that, Randy. She just fought, and she's a free agent. So her options are obviously re-sign with the UFC. Amanda Nunes would probably be the likely first fight. Bellator has a 145-pound division going, and they got 7 of the top 15 45ers. They actually are a little bit more stocked up than the UFC. And then PFL's an option because she would have to lose 10 less pounds. And now we have the $1 million campaigns. We had Peter Murray, the CEO of PFL. He says, hey, we're in for season 3 and 4. We're not going anywhere. They got a budding superstar in Kayla Harrison. And they have those paydays that lead up to the final fight as well. So we figured that might be something that as she's older, I'm sure she would appreciate fighting as a lightweight versus a featherweight. And, of course, there's Risen, Gabby Garcia, or I don't think one championship's an option. But what do you guys think? How do you think she should play that hand of poker that she has right now? What do you think is the best spot for her?
She's earned it. She's got a ton of leverage, and she's earned that. I don't know. I don't know what her contract looks like, what she's used to getting paid. I know she's like most of these fighters. It's going to be years before they see themselves in that top 2 or 3% in the sport that make the 6 figures on the regular and all that. And where she's at in the journey that she's been on, and she's got a crack at getting some fights on a regular basis and a crack at $1 million, why not?
What do you think?
I think immediately after the fight, and she went to press conference and was talking about how Dana and Rogan and all these. It sounds like she's got hurt feelings, and it sounds like to me that she doesn't want to be back there. To me, I think Bellator's her best option by far. Especially, I think they can keep her busy. She was only fighting maybe once a year. I think at that rate, she can go to Bellator and stay busy, get some sponsorships, make up some of that money that maybe you're missing out on in the UFC, and get fights. I think that's important for her at her age. PFL, I don't think there's enough depth yet. I think Kayla's really the only one.
Well, they did 8 ladies and 4 in the playoffs. So the other divisions, I guess, go 12 deep and 4 get eliminated in the regular season.
The women's divisions still aren't as deep as they could be.
Right.
That's the biggest issue, and especially creating a whole new division at 155 and lightweights, and it's just not deep enough yet. But if there was ever a candidate to be a lightweight, I mean, this was the biggest issue that held Cyborg back was the struggle to make 145. That was a really, really big cut and hard cut for her.
And think about how historic that would be. She's already been a Strikeforce champion, UFC champion, Invicta champion. If she can add one of the 2 organizations there, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone doing something like that.
Or both.
Or both.
Or both, yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt Bellator to do maybe a one-off or a 2-fight deal or something like that, and roll it out and see what she's got.
Her biggest fight is not Amanda Part 2. If she wins that, Amanda's the champ. Amanda gets the pay-per-view points. She'd have to beat her, and then the trilogy would be huge because it's 1-1, but now she'd be the champ. She'd get the pay-per-view points. But she's got options, right? I think we can all agree on that one.
Yeah.
We just laid it out right now. Now, there is a little bit of audio that we have from MMA Tonight with Misha Tate and Ryan McKinnell. She was on that show yesterday. Let's hear a couple of these. Let's go with 1 and 2, Kelly, please. We'll do 1 first, and then we'll react, and then we'll do 2, please.
They play the game. They play the game with me, and then I'm tired to play the game, like this. We have to be honest. It's hard to be a fighter, to be training, and you work someone. I want to be honest. I want to then step clear with me. I love my job. I love what to do. I'm not hard to work with because I work with Scott Walker. He's an amazing relationship with me. I work with Shanna. She have a good time with me. Nicksick, I don't have any problem. If you ask her, Scott, if you ask any promoter, if they have any problem with me, then they don't have problem with me. Only the no like.
Yeah, okay. I know that's a little tough for some people to understand, but she basically said she worked with Scott Coker and Shannon Knapp. She's never had any problems, only Dana White. Did you guys happen to see that video of her walking up to Dana after her fight and saying, "Stop lying"? She shook his hand, held onto the hand. He was obviously congratulating her. Dana's always got this. I mean, it's his promotion, man. It's his game. It's his ball. You know what I mean? And on this instance, when she grabbed and shook his hand and she pointed at him and said, "Stop lying. You know I told you. I immediately texted you. I wanted the rematch. I'm not scared to fight her." Man, it was like he had this look that he was shook, basically. You know what I mean? But it's kind of gone like viral a little bit. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I also think, too, that for the longest time, you got to think about how two parties come together. And for the longest time in the UFC, it was always talked about what if Cyborg was here? What if Cyborg fought Ronda? I mean, I can think of numerous times being in the scrum with Dana White. And one time in particular where somebody brought up Cyborg and he goes, "Okay, show of hands, how many people," he's asking me, the media people, "how many people think we should sign Cyborg?" As if, why would we? We don't need to. Who really thinks we should do that? Now, of course, he came around on that. When you think about it, if that's how you get brought into an organization after a long period of, "Oh, come on, we don't really want that, do we?" It's different than from the get-go, "We're so happy to have you. We as a promotion feel like we're the lucky ones to have you."
Yeah.
And maybe there's a little bit of that lingering effect, But, I mean, obviously, the acquisition has paid off big time. She's become a huge star in the UFC.
Yeah, she's never felt at home there.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the reason that she winds up leaving. I wanted to ask you, Randy, when you have these production meetings before PFL, how much weight is now on a star like Kayla Harrison and versus, the other guys that they have? Like I've noticed that women's sports is just, it's gone through the roof. Clarissa Shields in boxing, Ronda Rousey, and Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte Flair, in wrestling. They main evented a WrestleMania.
Sure.
And so how about with you guys? Like, have the women already been a big focus of the PFL? Is that basically why they created this whole season around Kayla?
Well, I think that's definitely why the 155-pound class was created, around Kayla for sure. They had signed Kayla 2 years ago and are literally smartly allowing her to make herself into a mixed martial artist. Obviously, there's never been a better judoka in the history of the United States, male or female. So she has that pedigree for sure. But I don't think they're overlooking everybody else in the league. I think Lance is getting his due. Who they're using all those guys to brand and market this format and this organization. And I don't think they're giving Kayla any more of a nod than they are anybody else. But certainly she's brought the women's division to the PFL.
Did you notice that when Misha was at the top as well, just a lot of media attention coming to Extreme Couture for the star female of the gym?
Tons, and really, moreover, it was kind of refreshing to see, being a dad of daughters, was little girls coming in to our demographic. Little girls wanting to meet Misha Tate. I thought that was very interesting, and it kind of bucked the trend of what we're accustomed to. So I actually remember that, like a little girl sitting out up in the lobby waiting to meet Misha Tate, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool, man!" Like she's resonating over to a different demographic.
Amazing, man, what she did. She came in the following Monday after she beat Holm, right?
Came and brought the belt in.
What was that like for the gym? I mean, that was like almost one of the greatest comebacks in MMA.
Yeah.
She was down 3-1, and in that 5th round, I think Holly was winning it. I don't remember that part too specifically.
Yeah.
But she gutted that out.
She did a really good job, as well as Coach Follis, of making everybody, all the way down to the members that were just there involved, feel like they were a part of that win. So when she came in with that belt, it was like everybody had a piece of that title, and we hadn't had one since Randy. So, I mean, that was the energy, because I was there since day one. I remember that energy in the gym, and it reciprocated back to when she did that as well. So it was cool. It was a very good feeling.
You guys had Forrest too, though, right?
We had Forrest, you're right. Yep, we had Forrest too. Yep.
And then Kevin fought for the interim, so he got close.
Yep,
Kevin he was whooping Ferguson.
He was doing well.
And then he ran out of gas a little bit.
He was doing well.
Yeah. Let's skip to Kelly, if you don't mind. Let's go to cut number 6. This is her basically just saying, my fans are going to follow me wherever.
for sure, my star is gonna shine another event if it's gonna be FC, and I know my fans are gonna follow me. I know this because they follow me when I'm in Strikeforce, they follow Invicta, they follow for FC, and then if it happens, they have to go another event, and then for sure my fans are gonna be with me.
You've gone from early UFC to Japan, back to UFC. Did your fans follow you as well?
I believe they did, yeah.
It's not like they're brand tied or nothing like that.
Yeah, no, I think they followed me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to see where I was going, what I was doing, and
it's a lot easier now too with all the major websites and social media.
Yeah.
To follow. I remember I was like, when's Randy fighting again? Next thing you know, I went on some website and I think that's when Ensign had beaten you, and I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like I thought he was an American fighting in the UFC. I didn't even know much of what was going on in Japan, but it all happened underground so quick, all right, let's take this break. When we come back, we'll catch up a little bit with the Extreme Couture Gym and everything Randy's got going on, including the GI Foundation. And next Monday here in Las Vegas, it's Monday's Dark. We'll talk about that when we come back. Do not touch that dial.
Destroy you. Just ask Three Finger Eddie and Pete the Penguin. Who are they, you ask? My point exactly. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
All right, we're back. We got Richard Hunter from Phone Booth Fighting stepping in here. Goes will be joining us shortly. Randy Couture and Eric Nicksick from Extreme Couture hanging with us here co-hosting. Randy, let's go through a few of the things that you got going on, including Monday's Dark. I was looking at the GIF.org website, and we'll talk about a few things going on there. And the first thing that popped out is Monday's Dark. Please join Randy Couture Monday, August 12th. This is here in Las Vegas for a charity variety show.
Yeah, the variety show. Monday's Dark puts us on all the time.
Okay.
And they pick a foundation that they want to be the beneficiary of their show. They picked us for this particular show. So we're helping them sell tickets and market that. It's supposed to be a really, really cool variety show.
Are you in the variety show?
No,
okay.
I'm not.
You'll just be attending.
Yeah.
Okay. And the mission is to raise $10K.
I know how these things go, though. I'm bringing my harmonicas because it's a pretty fair chance.
Just in
Well, I noticed you were dancing a little bit when the music was on.
Drug up on stage.
Just in
play.
case anyone requests your homage to Barbara Streisand or anything,
Yeah,
you'll have it prepared. Yeah.
It's $20 for the variety show, and it's become one of the hottest tickets in town. And again, the goal is to raise $10K for 90 minutes. Go to www.xegif.org. Also, Merging Vets and Players. Update us on that. I noticed there's 4 chapters, I believe, now opened, unless you guys have added any, all over the country. Atlanta, of course, LA, Las Vegas. The other one was Chicago. Yeah. How's that going?
It's been good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a thriving program. So, and I think exactly what we set out to do 2 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago now, is starting to come to fruition of what we wanted. And I was out of town somewhere, and I had the MVP shirt on, and somebody actually pulled me aside and said, "Hey, man, one of my family members goes to a chapter. It's in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that I feel like that program's helped save his life, and it's cool things like that. And it reminds you why we do it and what we started the program for."
Which gym is this one? Can you guys tell by the picture?
Yeah, that's Unbreakable. Yeah,
Okay, that's in LA?
That's the founding chapter was in LA at Unbreakable with Jay Glazer and Nate Boyer.
Mm-hmm.
Nate was a Green Beret and then was a long snapper for Texas, ended up getting a tryout and making the team for Seattle for a minute. And it was through that process and helping him get ready for that tryout that we got to know Nate. And obviously, I'm an Army guy anyway.
6 years, right?
6 years in the Army, yeah. And so recognized that a lot of our veterans that strip off that uniform suffer and deal with the same issues that a lot of these players that walk away from their uniforms deal with as well. So
and that's
there's a lot of
physical,
sense to
mental, psychological.
Yeah, bring them together, get them sweating, get them training, break down some of those barriers, get them with a bunch of like-minded people that speak in the same language, struggle with the same things, and it's been amazingly powerful. We have about 40 or 50 vets that show up both at LA and here in Vegas once a week, and then our program coordinators like Noel Huerta here in Vegas coordinate weekend outings for where they can bring their families and everything too.
Oh, that's cool.
The workouts are only players and vets are allowed, nobody else. So we want to create that safe space, that place where they can let their hair down. They can talk about what's bothering them, what's bugging them, what's going on. What's good too, but what's going on. And so we don't allow any kind of outsiders in there usually. And it's been powerful. We have 4 cities now, coast to coast, working on funding for the Manhattan pop-up to happen there. Just spoke to some guys in Buffalo today. I've got some lined up in Oklahoma. We're trying to, again, continue to branch out and put these programs up across the country.
So what I remember from when you were there, Eric, this is open to any veteran to come in and basically attend the class, which is on the physical side an MMA workout, which even before I had heard about MVP, I had heard that for those that suffer from PTS, the best workout is an actual MMA workout. And that was like, I read that 3 years apart from even the first time I'd heard about MVP. And then you have the fireside chat. And I believe you created the program for Vegas, or
well, what happened is that same thing kind of happened, and I was in my office doing some of the legwork to try to put this charity together through the GI Foundation for our charity. And then it was, I kid you not, maybe a week after, Randy comes in the office and says, "Hey, bud, I got this idea. Jay Glazer's doing this thing." I was like, "Shit, here's all my notes. I'm actually putting it together for us right now. Do you want to do it through the GI Foundation?" He said, "No, I want to do it through Jay's, and it's going to be called MVP, and here's the structure of it." So literally, we were thinking about doing the same thing already, and it just kind of came to fruition that way. So there was a lot of figuring out to do, I think, within the first year. And then once we got the infrastructure together, I mean, it runs itself. Noel does a great job with the program here. And in my mind, it's just kind of carried that mantra through with the other places, because these guys are bouncing out there to go kind of get the startups going and get everything going for the MVP affiliates, so it's been great.
I was going to ask you how you two guys got together. I don't know this story, but I just and I've talked about this on the air and everything, but because we're doing the Wimp to Warrior program over there this year, and this is the second season I've done it, I was really excited when it went over to Extreme Couture, and I had told Eric through our friendship, I said, man, this program's great, and, consider doing it and everything, but Extreme Couture is such a welcoming place to do it, because having done it 2 seasons now, you're talking about people who have little to no MMA experience. It's such an intimidating situation to walk into a gym. I mean, it's not only got Randy's name in it, it's got Extreme in the name. Like, everything about it is like, you walk in and first Francis Ngannou's walking by or whatever. So, you got to break all that down. So, and I think Eric's a great ambassador for that. How did you, obviously it's, no, look at this. Look at this. Interloping on his own show. Here comes Goes. But I mean, obviously that couldn't have happened by accident, Randy. I mean, you guys must have seen that Eric was a great representative of the gym. How'd you guys get together?
Yeah, he was part of the gym and training one of our instructors, doing a lot of stuff for us at the gym, and then the management position came open, and I didn't even think that was something he'd be interested in. I knew he was working a couple other jobs and doing a lot of other stuff already, but I also knew the passion and love he had for the gym and the gym setting. So when we opened the position up, I was actually kind of surprised that he threw his hat in the ring, and it just made perfect sense. It was just a great fit, and he's been off and running ever since. It's been amazing.
That's awesome. You get a great setup over there. So. Yeah, I mean, I've been in before, to cover different events or whatever. This is my first time training there. It's been awesome. So
he was training for Tim Sylvia, but the gym hadn't even been open yet. And I kind of stumbled into the gym knowing that they were going to eventually open. I think it was in March we open, right? But all they had in there was just the cage, and there's no flooring. There was not a whole lot going on. And I distinctly remember the time they had a heater in there that was pumping carbon monoxide through the whole building.
One of those BTU propane heaters.
But it was actually Mike Pyle and Jay Heron and those guys that said, hey, man, this is when we open. Make sure you come back. And I'm in the database, I'm like member number 2. Yeah. So in our system that we have. So I've been there really since day one, and never look back. It's something I enjoy and I love. And we sat down over a beer and kind of went over what I thought where the gym was heading, where he wanted to see the gym go, and we just fucking took it and ran with it.
You know what else I like about the gym? Obviously, you guys were talking about Army background and all that kind of stuff. Everything in the gym. So there's like these, what do you call that netting? That green camouflage netting. So you got
some of that's gone now, right?
I took it down. Yeah.
Where did it go? Where'd my camouflage netting go?
It's still there. You just can't see it.
Well, you got stuff. Right. That's how good it
works.
You got stuff like that hanging up, but I'm still noticing stuff. I swear, just this morning, I'm over by the cage, and for the first time ever, I noticed that the benches over by the cage, the planks on the benches are ammo boxes. Right. I had not noticed that before. I'm like,
my VP, Scott Haney, Val's husband, Scott, he made those.
Oh, okay.
Went to his surplus store, found we have 2 of those benches that he made.
Yeah.
And they're really cool. Yeah. I think they're really cool.
A nice little nuance touch there, yeah.
How did you know your gym would be in good hands with Eric? Like, what were some of his qualities that you were like, okay, this is my guy?
He just became a leader in the gym environment. Somebody that people looked up to, people wanted his advice, wanted to talk to him, and I already knew he was managing 9 Fine or
3 Angry.
3 Angry, that's it. Too many Irish bars in this town.
No
so I mean, I just didn't have any idea that he would be interested in the position, and so, but it was a perfect fit.
Yeah, I love the way you run that gym, man.
Appreciate it.
Those guys, you command the respect. I see a little bit of, I call you Lombardi on Mondays. He's Eric Nicksick Tuesday through Sunday, but on Mondays, man, he puts on
the fedora and the black frames.
Look, it's not an easy job. Being a gym manager is not an easy. Managing anything you're holding people accountable, and nobody wants to be held
All right,
accountable.
Goes is queuing me up for a story over here. He wanted me to ask about the time that Gray Maynard and Mike Powell glued themselves to the floor. Did that happen?
I don't know.
I know they did help us put all that flooring in around the cages and the rings and all that stuff. Now,
Boy, I must have touched a nerve there. That must have been something that was everybody promised to never speak of it. Is that what happened?
That was in the vault.
We've seen some pretty good in-house brawling and stuff like that together.
I mean, come on. Part of the story is that. Tell us anything on that one?
I mean, I've seen some good Tyson Griffin, Gray Maynards, Jay Herons fighting with each other.
No, I'm talking about this glue.
I don't know about.
They were putting the flooring down.
Yeah,
and they glued the
on the weight area. We had to roll out that really thick rubber on that side, and you had to glue that down and. I think that and make sure there's no bubbles and all. It was a much bigger
that's
project.
actually a good kind of a cautionary tale for a pro fighter to go through because maybe they're at a point in their career where like I don't know how much longer do I go, and that kind of shows you. Listen, this is what real life could be like. You could be working a gig where you're supposed to do this kind of stuff.
Well, we got a little bit of hot water when we were putting the lockers together, and Tompkins took us to home plate to get drunk instead. Putting the lockers together, that turned into a little bit of a shit show. But I mean, we were laughing today. Because in right before practice, and of course, like you think about the championship mindset. You and I talked about that, and the guys that are always early is always Race FO and Jay Heron, and the three of us were kind of in the locker room chatting it up, and you forget about all those fun times. And Jay brought up, he said, "Shit, man, we'd be multimillionaires if we had a reality show way back then. Had we had a camera crew following us around."
Didn't they film practices or something like that?
We did.
We tried to do a live streaming membership where people could tune in and watch the training. Kind of sink in.
But that wasn't the behind the
scenes
stuff then, right?
But that wasn't a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. That was just more practice and training. But there was a talk at one point of doing a reality show in the gym setting because the gym is a character in and of itself. The guys there, the whole thing.
No filming got done though.
But we never got off the starting block with that idea, and I wasn't sure honestly that I wanted that much purview into the rest of my life.
Right. Who would have been the gym's
that gym is our sanctuary in a lot of ways. So to crack that sanctuary open there was a potential downside to that.
Who would have been the character though of the reality show, like a Jay or Mike or?
Oh, no doubt about it. Ron Pyle. I mean, that was a crazy group of guys.
Yeah.
A great group of guys, and
you miss those days, or like, is there something about those vintage days, or has the new crop also been just as entertaining? And
it's nice having Jay around. The way that Jay stays in the gym, and it was just his birthday recently. He didn't come in on Monday, but when I ran practice on Tuesday, Jay came and sparred. And after practice, I gave him his moment and told everybody, it's Jay's birthday. But he's been a pillar in that gym. If you were to do a montage in Extreme Couture, obviously the canvas on mat 1 with Jay's blood is Jay's montage to him. But Jay's one of those pillars of Extreme Couture, and I was laughing like there's a reason why he has 2 lockers here, and he's that reason. Jay, Pyle, Gray. I mean, John Alessio. There was that group, man, of guys that kind of built that gym the way it is today, and really through me, I try to hope carry that torch for those guys.
John's a policeman now.
John Alessio's a cop.
For Las Vegas or Henderson?
Metro.
Do you guys ever run into him, or
talk
does he still come
all the
in?
time.
Yeah, talk to him now. He still comes in once in a while.
Yep.
How's he doing?
Recently.
He's doing good.
Really well.
And then Josh Haynes is also
a Metro cop.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then another guy, I don't know that he ducked in your gym as much, but I know you know him, Ulysses Gomez.
He's
also a policeman.
Shy Lindsay.
Shy Lindsay?
Yep.
Shy Lindsay's a cop now?
Shy Lindsay's a cop.
Oh, when did that happen?
He's been on almost 2.5, 3 years now.
I remember him through Tough Enough more than anything. He was a tough fighter. He's done with fighting, though.
He is for the moment, but he had a great career, and he came to me with his background stuff and said, "Hey, Coach, I'm doing this, and what do you think?" And I said, "Shy, I'm never going to tell you to shy away from a career."
Oh, look at you!
Getting into a career with benefits and retirement and all that stuff. I think it's the smart thing to do, and you can always come back to fighting. He's very young, but he's a young father as well. They're expecting their next baby. I said, man, this makes a lot of sense. You should go out and do it. And he loves it.
I wanted to make sure that I'm getting older now. I forget stuff, but MVP is now on Fridays.
Fridays, yep.
At the gym,
yep.
And so any veteran can come in, or
any
former
retired
professional
player, doesn't matter what sport. If you're a retired professional athlete and you're living in the Vegas community and you want to come get a workout in and meet a bunch of vets and get a workout in and come on in.
Every Friday. 4?
We're doing 4:30 now, right?
Is it 4:30 or 5:30?
5:30. 5:30.
5:30 is when it starts?
5:30 is when it starts.
Yeah, and so we're in there for 2 hours probably. 5:30 to 7:30.
And we call the fireside now the huddle.
The huddle.
we changed that up.
it from the fireside chat to the huddle. We don't have a fireplace in the gym.
Yeah.
Not a lot of FDR fans in the program, apparently.
No.
Was,
All right, so we got just a couple minutes. Randy, Extreme Couture, GI Foundation, do you have any poker runs or anything coming up on that behalf, aside from Monday's start?
Yeah, the next gigs for that are all in Oklahoma City. We've got a shoot.
Is that what the rest?
Going to doing a seminar and a meet and greet at the new RTC, the Regional Training Center for USA Wrestling in Oklahoma. Obviously, a former Cowboy, Eric Guerrero, national champion for the Cowboys, is running that program down in Norman now, training a bunch of our Olympic hopefuls from Oklahoma in that training center. So we're doing a co-deal with them. We'll share all the revenue from that weekend, doing a shoot in one of the gun ranges down there, Wilshire Gun, and going
this
to
is when you're teaching the seminars.
The Dodgers
right?
game, and then doing a dinner, and then we'll split the proceeds with the foundation and the RTC.
10,000's always been the magic number. Can you explain to me again? I think 10,000 is per family.
That's
is the goal, right?
That's what we do. Is whatever money we raise, we divide it up in $10,000 increments. If I raised $160,000, and that's 16 families, we're going to go write a $10,000 check. To
and
each
I think
one
you
of
told
those
me
families.
that last year you got into the 200s.
Yeah,
you're getting
just
up there.
under 200 this year. I think we're pushing 300. So
already.
Yeah, excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going well.
All right. So, if I'm not mistaken, a week from Thursday, you're at PFL. So are you.
I'm there with him.
All right. Awesome, guys.
ESPN Plus and ESPN2.
We only have.
Thursday night.
Oh yeah. I'll definitely give the reminders. That Kelvin Tiller guy he was just on our show. Man, that guy's done special things.
Yeah.
Mama's boy.
Topeka, Kansas.
Yeah.
He came from the gang life, but he's definitely turned it
Great
around.
kid. His mom will be there too. She's a hoot. She's fun, and you never see more passion and exuberance than you will.
I'm sure
in her.
he can identify her voice
Right.
out
Absolutely,
of the
for sure.
entire
I think
crowd,
everybody
right?
in that arena can identify her voice by now.
Yeah, that and Wayne the Pain.
Hey, goes. They said they would jump out of the planes at Fort Bragg.
See this face of a guy that's not 100% surprised at all.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll get back to you guys on that. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks for
I
having
really
us.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Appreciate it.
And
being on.
yes, next week on ESPN Plus and ESPN2, it's PFL 2019 Week 6. You can follow Eric on Twitter at Eric_XCMMA, and of course Randy Couture at Randy_Couture. All right, folks, we are coming up on the top of the hour break. We'll be gone for 60 seconds, and then we'll be right back. We'll continue talking about the sport of mixed martial arts, including the latest with Colby Covington, who headlines this Saturday UFC on ESPN5 versus Robbie Lawler, 3 p.m. Eastern Start Time. It's an afternoon matinee affair on the leader, the sports leader. We'll be right back, folks.
Just George and goes.
Noise of close. Yeah. All right, we're back, folks. It's MMA Junkie Radio. We bid our adieu to Richard Hunter from the Phone Booth Fighting Podcast. Thank you, Richard, for everything. And, of course, Randy Couture, the UFC Hall of Famer, former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion and current PFL broadcaster. You guys didn't plan out the T-shirt thing, did you?
No, not at all.
Oh,
I was actually wearing like a cut-off flannel button-up, and I was like, I got to dress better for General Frost if he shows up. So.
Right. Well, he's at the Encore pool, so
I don't blame him.
things
Stay
are
there.
moving slow,
Yeah,
and I don't know what's happening, but
don't even bother.
You've been there many a times, huh?
Spent a month there one night.
I like that. Man, Randy's involved in a lot of stuff, isn't he?
Yeah.
No wonder, even though fighting's been done for almost a decade now, that dude stays busy.
I mean, he's a good guy.
And that's without,
I look
like,
up to
movies and
him.
shit.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's been a good role model for me, and seeing how hard he works and the time and hours that he puts in, there's no excuses with him, you know. So
the coolest thing about him is he never gives off that superstar legend vibe.
100%.
You know, I've seen him at the gym, I've seen him here, but I haven't spent time like when we went to Fort Eustis where there was actual sit time and we bowled, we had the barbecue and then all the other stuff, and he's just like one of the fellas, you know what I mean? He's like a locker room fella or joking around or going to a game fella or a bar fella, whatever, just solid dude.
When you see him meet somebody, he gives you the time and asks you questions as well, you know, and he wants to get to know that person. So very much so, he doesn't really brush anybody off. I'll tell you, the only time I've ever seen him in that way is if we're in a dinner setting. We're at dinner, we're at a table, we're eating food. He'll be very polite about it, but he'll just say, look, I'm having dinner with my family right now. If you want to do a picture when I'm done, I'll be happy to do that. But any other environment and setting, he's that guy.
You think he'll really jump out of planes, or?
Yeah, he will, for sure.
He wasn't just fronting for the show?
No, he'll do it. Yeah, he'll do it.
You know, I was a dead set no, but about a week ago, I was just thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, I'm tandem jumping, you know?
Right.
As long as I'm not exceeding some weight limit, you know what? Maybe I just need to do this and experience it and whatever, you know what I mean? I got to trust the United States. We got the best military in the world, right? If I'm going to trust somebody to jump with, it's those dudes.
And
I'm considering it. Don't call me a yes, but I was a firm no. Now I'm probably
That's what you were worried about?
25%.
I thought you were worried about the landing for your knee.
No, I think I'm okay. I can do the hop along. Or I don't know, but
see, I'm kind of the same way.
Unless we land like the guys in Point Break. Did you see that movie?
Yeah.
Fuck no. What were we gonna say?
It's just that experience of going on those trips with you guys. It's hard to say no to any of that. When you're there's dogs gonna come and bite your arm. You want to give it a shot? Hell yeah, because I don't know when the next time I'm gonna be able to do this. So yeah, I'm in.
What if Derek had done it? He goes, I'm taking off the sleeve.
Fuck.
The dog goes and bites him and it hurts him.
Yeah.
But he braves it. And then they go, Eric, you're next. Would you have said, fuck it, I can't let the beast top me, or would you have put on the sleeve?
Masvidal didn't do it, right? Did George not do that?
I think he did it.
I don't think he did. I have the video. I remember Derek did, and I think I did. I don't know if George did. I think he was not into that part. But he did the bomb suit. You know, he did everything else. That was a fun trip.
Yeah.
That was a fun trip.
You guys rolled in the bomb suit.
We did.
I have footage of that. That was
bomb
pretty funny.
suit?
Yeah, they were throwing leg
suit?
kicks at each other.
EOD,
Remember when we had that thing, the explosion?
Oh,
EOD?
yeah.
They had that big Hurt Locker suit, and they were like racing in it and throwing each other.
When I was looking for older pictures, I found right away Bert in the cockroach position.
Oh, yeah.
Him and Randy had gone in there and they did the firefighter run or whatever it was called. And when Bert came out through that door, I remember he
just fell over.
He fell out and then he just laid there like a cockroach, dude. That was so funny. Oh, man, we got to do another one of those. That was a good group. And he was telling me that 4 of them were together the other day, but they didn't get a pick. It was Eve and Randy because they call the fights. Mm-hmm. Eric was cornering. And then Bert's been going to the PFL cards as a fan, you said, right?
So if I see him next week, I'll make sure. Because it was till after the fact. I was like, oh, shit, all 4 of us are here. We got to get
really
an
cool
alumni picture, you know?
I think we asked Eve about that, right, when he was on the show. How cool was it to reconnect and all that?
Yeah. What do you guys think about Colby? Did you guys? I mean, I get a kick out of him. I don't worry about do I like him, do I not like him. It's just when I hit Junkie and the story pops up and it's got Colby, I'm hitting the story because I want to see what he's up to.
Okay.
He did his media scrum.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the media day workout or whatever. No, not the media day workout. Just the media day interviews. And he did it with 3 chicks, and I mean he's all in on that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Is he on your nerves, or are you getting a kick out of him, or what?
He's already past that. Like, he's in so deep that he might as well just keep consistent with what he's doing.
The belt, the MAGA hat, the glasses.
Yeah, I'm down with it. But you saw my reaction when you said, "What did you think of Colby?"
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of was, what did he do next? Because you really, if you sign off of social media or any MMA website for more than, I don't know, an hour or so, Colby does so many things that you don't know what that is. And so in a way, he's built that persona where he keeps you wondering what he's going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably an advantage for him.
You know him pretty well. You hold plans for him, right?
Yeah, I know. I've known him for a long time. He came in, I think, right after he was at Oregon State, and Campman brought him in for a couple camps as well. So I've known him for a long time, and I like Colby a lot. He's a good guy, but I know Colby in a different light than what we see in the media.
Mm-hmm.
And then we spoke about me cornering him for this next fight, when he came out for Woodley and Usman. So, I mean, I like him a lot. It's just, it's not my persona. I don't like to be involved in those types of antics, I guess, per se. I think Mike Brown does a great job of kind of keeping himself out of it, too. And I had a really interesting conversation with Colby. Like, hey, man, when does this whole thing kind of end? You're at the point now where you're getting the big fights. That was the whole idea. And then, he's like, oh, man, I think this is kind of my thing, and keep running with it. So he loves it, and he's doing a great job with it. Not my thing. Love Colby to death, man, as a competitor. Can't argue that. Guy goes in and does his job well. So
if he's doing what he's doing, it just amplifies the fight. It's good for the opponent. It's good for him.
Certain lines you can't get back.
Right.
And he's
for
around
sure
it. But here's the
he
thing.
did that with Brazil, but I mean the guy trains with probably 30 Brazilians at American Top
sure.
Team.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he either cleared that or he was just willing to deal with it, or he felt like they're smart enough to know it's a shtick.
yeah.
The thing is this. If somebody were to confront him, he doesn't act surprised like, what are you doing, or acting the victim. Like, he knows what he's doing, and he's willing to face those consequences. And once you do that, then there's not much you can really say, right?
Yeah.
Like Eric said, you can choose to just maybe step out of it, but at the same time, he's not looking at you going, what are you doing? Like, he knows exactly everything that he's doing.
Well, he did get a boomerang once for his efforts.
Yeah.
Right. But, when you talk to him about it, and, I don't want to show his cards, but I know that at one point in his career, the UFC had thought about cutting him because of his style of fighting. He is a lot like a Jake Shields in a way, or a John Fitch, and not fan-friendly until he got to the point now where his hands are there and he's piecing guys up. But he needed to do something, is my point. And he did. And whether you like him or not, the guy's getting big fights. The guy's winning big fights. And I think he deserves everything he's getting right now. And hopefully he gets the win and goes on for a title shot.
Yeah.
He's got a gas tank, too,
Dude.
man. He's a pressure fighter, and
Yeah.
he comes at you.
We did 5 rounds at a high-paced pads, and we got after it with takedowns and everything else, man. And I was impressed with him. I like him a lot as far as what he does in the cage, man. I think he's a stud.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I think right now what I want to do is the daily debate. So, Kelly, if you have it queued up, I think now's a good time.
The brothers Garcia seemingly can't agree on anything.
Everybody knows it's duck season.
Rabbit season.
Duck season.
Rabbit season.
Whether it's food,
Less filling.
Tastes great.
Less filling.
Tastes great.
gambling,
Always bet on black.
I like red.
Black.
Red.
Black.
Red.
Black, dummy.
or even social media,
Instagram.
Snapchat.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
the same applies to the biggest stories in MMA. Time for MMA Junkie Radio's Daily Debate.
Today's daily debate question for at MMA Junkie Radio. Hashtag UFC Newark co-main event lightweights Clay Guida and Jim Miller are on the back ends of their careers.
Wait,
if they
say it
never...
again.
The whole thing?
What was the question again? Can you start that over?
Sure, yeah. Today's daily debate question for the at MMA Junkie Radio team. Hashtag UFC Newark co-main event lightweights Clay Guida and Jim Miller on the back ends of their careers. If they never win a UFC title, are they worthy of eventual inclusion in the modern era wing of the UFC Hall of Fame? Here are your choices, fellas. Yes for both, no for both, just Guida, or just Miller. Goes?
Oh, man. It's so difficult because the UFC is so inconsistent with what they've put into the Hall of Fame, right? These are two guys who had great careers, but I think the Hall of Fame is about separating good fighters and great fighters, right? And what separates good fighters from great titles doesn't always have to be the belt, but it's a big chunk of it. And not just the belt. There's so many of them that it's how long you hold on to the belt, how many title defenses do you have, those sorts of things. if you do let these guys in, you're going to open the door for a lot of other fighters that are probably in that same place. Look at a Chris Lytle, a Joe Lozon. Then they got to come in. And so at some point, when you have all these people up on a stage, you want them to all kind of be uniform. And I don't know if the UFC has set it up that way where everybody is uniform. I think there's a few holes you can poke here and there.
Miller's on 33 fights. That's pretty
I
special
know.
in itself.
But it would be like a guy that shows up to work every day, right? Like you give him a participation award or something.
Okay.
But I don't know that you give him his desk and all that stuff, right? Like you have to have some separation. It doesn't mean that they're not good fighters. It didn't mean that they didn't contribute to the sport, which they did. It's just you have to kind of figure out at some point you got to draw the line.
You're saying no for both.
I'm going to say no to both.
How about you, Eric?
I think Goes makes a great point on all that stuff, and I think you have to set that standard and kind of see where the cream of the crop in between that group is. Man, I think your point to if you let those two guys in, then the floodgates might open and devalue a lot of that Hall of Fame talk. So I think right now, being so young in their, the Hall of Fame side of things with UFC, I would say right now probably not.
I keep thinking of the wackiness that is Dana White sometimes. And I remember one time he said, I'm just going to let all the guys in from season 1 just because it was season 1 of Tough. And that included like Josh Rafferty and Loden Sinkay, a few of the guys that just didn't have great careers. And I'm thinking, man, he never let them in. But the fact that he let them in led me to believe, well, it could be that it's going to take a few years for him to really right the ship and this be all about greatness. Like if I'm inducting a fighter, I need to be saying something along the lines of when I introduced Randy when he was here. I said, current UFC Hall of Famer and former light heavyweight and heavyweight. I mean, those are some credentials, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I can't say that about these guys.
Headliners.
But I feel like the UFC is still figuring all this out, and because of their ability to step in and fight when the UFC wanted them to, they've had so many fights, they're popular, I think they're both going to get in.
You think so?
I think so, yeah. And not that I disagree with you guys in the points you made, because that's how the other sports are. I mean, there's guys that have like freaking 15,000 yards receiving, or 1,000 receptions, and you're like, he's still not in. You're like, whoa, it takes them like 2-3 years for somebody to get in.
But that's what makes it feel
because the NFL
special
criteria
too.
is so high. Excuse me. So I understand your points. Anyway, here's how the voting came in. Yes for both, 42%. No for both, 31%. Just Guida, 19%. Just Miller, 8%. If you had to pick one, though, which one would you pick?
I think I would go with Jim Miller.
Same.
I think so, too.
Same.
But I don't have the records in front of me. I'd have to say. Well, I mean, I know Guida. Miller had an 8-fight win streak at one point, and he didn't get a title shot. Guida, I think, had a 4 or 5 fight, and you know who took him out was Benson Henderson in Anaheim. Anyway, there's today's Daily Debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie radio team and Eric Nicksick, Extreme Couture, general manager and head coach to many of the fighters over there. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll keep talking about the latest MMA news as well as everything going on over there in New Jersey for UFC on ESPN 5, which takes place on Saturday. Plus, Goes and I will continue to share some of the recent developments in our personal lives. As you know, tonight and tomorrow are our last 2 shows here on SiriusXM, but we have some interesting plans that we plan on sharing when we come back.
mantles are covered with participation awards. They have boxes of gold stars that they purchase themselves. They are the legends and demand your respect. Here are George and Goes.
All right, we're back. NFL Radio's annual training camp tour continues tomorrow night at 7 Eastern when Jim Miller and Pat Kerwin check in with Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Check out all of their camp tour stops on NFL Radio, Channel 88, and the SiriusXM app. All right, folks. Or Eric, who's your team, by the way? You're not an NFL guy, right? Is that about to change in about a year?
I got to go with the Raiders.
Yeah?
You know, I don't have a choice. I know Brad will take my head off if I'm not. But
are you going to go to every game or try to if the opportunity rises?
I wouldn't go to every game. But if you came to me and said, I got tickets, let's go, I'm going to go.
Yeah?
For sure. Okay. Are you going to do that or are you going to stay 49ers?
If I have a ticket, I'm going.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm going to be the guy that has the NFC team and the AFC team.
Okay.
Because the one thing I've come to love is Las Vegas.
Right.
Since moving here. And I love sports. And come on, man. The stadium's right across from the hotel that I've been working for the last 10 years.
Exactly.
I fell in love with Vegas Golden Knights, you know, and I just like immersing myself in the city. The bottom line is I can't get to a 49er game.
Right.
I mean, that's literally a $500 to $1,000 weekend, you know, between travel, the ticket, and eating and all that stuff. And if I stay at night, it just keeps going up. So I watch them on
short period to get there too, right? Once it's December, it's like you're pretty fucked there.
I watch them on television, but that's it. But to be able to participate, you know, and this hotel's just going to be buzzing, and they're going to have, we've been hearing some of the stuff about how they're going to tailgate.
Right.
If I find my way into having tickets, whether it's covering them credentials or just getting lucky. Yeah, I think I'm going to be really, really in.
I'm a Chargers
I'm not going to get a tat in year one or nothing like that. But
right.
I definitely going to be excited for the stadium, the team, and the city.
That's a big thing. You know, being born and raised in Las Vegas, and that was always a dream of mine as a kid to have an NFL team come to your city.
Right.
Raiders wouldn't have been my first choice, but look, there's going to be a team here, and it's not my first choice, but I'm going to be all in for them. And I think once you're in, you're in. You know, if you're black and silver, you're black and silver.
Plus, there's two things. For one, there's the argument. I just read off Ben Roethlisberger. You know, the tour camp on NFL Radio is going to stop Pittsburgh. If Ben Roethlisberger got traded to KC, him and his whole family would move to KC. They'd have KC on, and they'd be the Chiefs and go
right.
Chiefs. And the alliances for them, it's a business world. I don't see why the fan can't also do that at some point. Whether you're disappointed if the team just doesn't invest, or you guys always suck, or you know you move or whatever. What's the difference? Now some will say the ones that live there, they have reasons. Like I have a buddy named Jason Lackey. He lives in San Francisco. You're not going to get him to change his mind about anything. Something tragic would have to happen for him to actually change it. I get it.
Right.
He's in Frisco. He goes to the games. He reads the papers. He grew up. All that. I'm not there. That connection's just not there.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So this might be the birth of something new for me. I don't know. I haven't made that decision yet. But I'll tell you what. If anyone busts my balls over it, I'll be like, good for you. Fuck you.
Look what the Knights did for us.
Yeah.
Vegas became a hockey town.
Yeah.
We didn't know shit about hockey.
And there's cactuses here, and it was 113 today.
100%.
But yeah.
Now all of a sudden we're a hockey town. We're vying for the Stanley Cup every year. So the energy that I think that the Knights did, the Golden Knights did for Vegas, I think you're going to see that tenfold for the Raiders. I really do.
We've been hearing that Mandalay Bay is going to be a big focal point for stuff that's going to go on at the stadium, especially the Raiders. I can't divulge exactly, but you got to imagine, you know, it's going to be popping. We're the hotel that's closest to the stadium, just over Hacienda. That's going to be the walkway. It's really not far at all. Rumor has it that the team's even going to stay here. That's been a little bit. I heard that as a public rumor. So I can't wait. We're only 1 year away. Goes is a Redskins fan. His transition might not be as easy, but
I don't know. This is my only problem.
Okay.
That I want to support the community, and I want to support the Raiders, and I'll cheer for them. But my only reservation is this: the day that they win the Super Bowl, everyone's going to be on that fucking strip.
Right.
And I don't know that I can raise my hands and say, we did it, when I'm cheering for another team my entire life. And probably would cheer for them over the Raiders. So then at that point, if I can't do that, well, then why the hell am I going through all this? That might change, because I went into Golden Knights being a Kings fan and thinking, well, I have my loyalties here. I wasn't a hardcore Kings fan, but I watched them.
I felt the same about the Ducks.
Yeah. And right away, and maybe it was the tragedy that happened, but something just made me feel
connected.
I'm connected to them. That may happen with the Raiders, but I think it would be really hard because I've spent 40 years of my life rooting for the Redskins when they were shit and when they were good. And I don't know. It might have to come down to just a feeling thing. You know, maybe your first game when you're there and you're just like, I'm looking to my right and my brothers are here, my cousins, my friends. This may just be my thing now. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Or we could just start a Raiders podcast and say it's a business decision now.
Exactly.
You know? I'm not saying we're gonna. That's just me throwing that out there. Speaking of, though, today and tomorrow are our last days on SiriusXM. Did we share that with you, E?
I didn't know.
Yeah. So after 5-year run, we're not going to be on SiriusXM anymore, and we divulged that yesterday. The MMA Junkie radio show, as you know, it is going to change a little bit, the format, the days, the delivery, all that. But trust me, we have a little vacation coming up, but the show will be delivered on a following Monday. And USA Today Sports, great bosses of ours have allowed us to spread our wings a little bit. And so we are actually, that's why Richard was here earlier, we're kind of starting like a new show.
Nice.
Gorgeous George and Go Show.
Love it.
Yeah, and it's going to start off on Patreon, where you can, have you heard of Patreon?
I have.
Yeah, where you can support and be a part of it by supporting a show that's just independently homegrown. And we're going to try and fill a little bit of that 10-hour void because it was 5 days a week, 2 hours a day. And even though some of that is spilling over to, you know, the new show that we're going to do on USA Today, we're going to be doing some other stuff as well. So the info there is www.patreon.com/Triple G Show. That's TRIPLE G Show. And you'll see different tiers and different ways that you can pledge to support us. And we promise you that the same way we worked hard for these past 12 and a half years to grind out daily shows and stuff like that's our plan is to execute and grind out different types of content as well over there. And I think what we're going to do on that side is open ourselves up a little bit more personally and
learn more about us.
Maybe talk a little bit more football in Vegas and stuff like that.
Exactly what the conversation we just had. Just kind of learn a little bit more about where we came from, why we make the decisions. But we want to start off just introducing ourselves from ground zero. And when you go on there later on tonight, you'll see a video of how this show actually started. It started 12 years ago and what brought us to here. And we'll take it from there, little by little. But from there, we'll get in our groove, and you'll be able to see different sides of us and what makes us tick, and talk about all the things that make us laugh. Because, I mean, we're immersed in MMA, but that's not our identity. You know, we have other interests, and you're going to see a lot of that coming out here.
Definitely.
But
there's different belt levels that you can pledge. There's the blue belt level, $2 a month. The purple belt level, $5 a month. Brown and black. Check it out again, www.patreon.com. And, of course, the higher the belt level, the more you're going to have access to, you know, whether it's delivering a show weekly to the blue belt levels and then to all the other cool stuff we plan on doing to the black belts. We would really appreciate your support. And we ask that you trust us because it's a transition from serious to still doing new stuff with USA Today under the MMA Junkie umbrella. Still MMA Junkie Radio.
That's fun too.
Yeah, a lot of video. You're going to be seeing these mugs a lot. And then, of course, on the side here, the Gorgeous George and Go Show, along with Richard Hunter, we're going to be doing our thing on Patreon. So we'll be pushing that Patreon probably a lot. You may hate us for a while, but again, I think we'll deliver.
And Eric's going to play a huge role in this, and he doesn't even know. He's going to play a huge role on both sides.
Is he?
Yeah.
By what? Is he pledging black?
Oh, maybe that too. Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
He's like, shut the fuck up.
No, I'm in. I'm in. Whatever you guys are doing, I'm in. You know that.
Yeah. What were you teasing though? Oh,
no. Basically, any idea that I've ever said. Hey, wouldn't it be funny?
Yes, all of those.
Something like that.
I have emails of those.
Do you really?
Text messages of all those, yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if, all that's going to start to happen.
You blew a mouthful of crickets.
There you go, yeah.
That's right. Where's the video for that? Is the only one that has it because Matt lost
there
it
are some.
right?
Mike has some of it. Matt had the majority of it, and
But Mike's on top of everything.
No, he's got it. It's stored.
So he should have a lot.
There's some of it.
I have it somewhere. I have to find it.
Yeah, it's part of like a. You can find it on YouTube. GameCube. Dude, he fucked me up, man. Like
you cheated, right? I think you.
No, I just
If it was
got
drag racing,
didn't
and you know how
cheat.
it goes like red, yellow, then green. I don't think there was a full green when Eric was blowing crickets.
No, you know what he did was he outthought me. What he did was, before we even started, he had already gone. And so when they said go, he just went. I waited for the go to go, and by the time it went, like
So as he's sucking them in, he's actually sucking in.
Yeah, I actually
crickets?
sucked them in more because
Oh, God.
dude,
These guys shared a funnel, a straw. What do we call it?
It was like a giant straw, and we had crickets and
Loaded in the
worms in the middle, and then we had to blow it into each other's mouth.
Yeah.
But he just blew so hard that it shot
okay.
down.
So I take it back.
It was in my stomach.
On
It was even
paper,
over.
they thought we were going to be going,
Yeah.
and then like kind of sliding one way or another, and I just fucking big bad wolfed them and blew crickets to the back of his throat.
Do you remember when I had
the
to
back of my head?
Do you remember when I had to kick that ball at Pat Barry?
Yeah, dude. If you would have hit him, if you hit him in the right spot and he wasn't expecting it that way, you could have.
Pat Barry was
knocked him out.
standing against one of those garage doors that makes a lot of noise. I guess they're aluminum, is it right?
Something, man.
We're standing there, and the last thing Ghost said to me was, "Kick it as hard as you want," because I wasn't gonna kick it that hard.
Right.
He goes, "Kick it as hard as you want. That's the whole purpose of it." I go, "All right," and I just remember I went up there and I kicked it pretty hard. Now look, I'm not trying to tell anybody I'm Ronaldo or anything like that, but it sounded like Ronaldo kicked it because it hit. It barely missed his head, but it made that big boom noise, you know, and then everybody goes, whoa, you know what I mean? And his reaction was hilarious.
He took a lot of lumps that day.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and so it was really, really a cool event that Goes planned out. But
do you remember what else happened to him?
To Pat Barry?
Yeah. He had we were playing Silent Library, and he kept losing. And so he had to put a tee in his mouth with a giant golf ball. And Rose Namajunas stood over him and swung, but she completely missed and just hit him in the face with it, with the swing. So she blasted him there. And then he had to dance on the stripper pole. At the end.
Yeah.
He's like a life of a party type guy.
He was great. That was fun. That was at Tough Prince, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Tough Prince,
with Chase. All right, guys. Listen, we got to take our last break here. Big E, thanks so much for hanging out with us. I'm going to see if we can stop by tomorrow.
Cool.
You'll be there early, right?
I'll be there
at the gym.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. And Big Eric will be coaching some of the fighters at PFL 2019 week 6, and that's next Thursday. You can catch the fights on ESPN Plus and ESPN2. We'll give you all those formalities throughout the week. So follow him on Twitter at Eric_XCMMA. I got that right?
Yep, perfect.
All right, awesome. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, this is going to be fun. We're going to talk to Dr. Steve Kim from Hollywood Smile Dental here in Las Vegas. Now, he works with a lot of fighters in mixed martial arts, a lot of the coaches, a lot of pre- and post-fight visits that they have, whether it's mouth guards or, I'm sure, can you fix this tooth? Or
he took care of my whole upper jaw.
He's probably seen it all, so we're gonna pick his brain a little bit about how he contributes to the sport. He's a really, really nice guy, and of course, he attends the general public, so we'll give you all the details on his practice, Hollywood Smile Dental. And, folks, we'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
All jokes aside, George and Goes are some of the best chicks I know. Here we go with more verbal sparring. Take it away, ladies.
All right, and down the stretch we go. Want to thank Randy Couture and Eric Nicksick for stopping by. All of our guests are in studio, and our next guest, we're going to have some fun here because we're going to step outside of the cage a little bit and talk to a gentleman who assists many of those men and women that step into the cage because he is the dentist, the MMA doc here in Las Vegas. His name is Dr. Steve Kim, and he owns Hollywood Smile Dental here in Las Vegas. Now, I can personally tell you, even though I have yet to have any of his services, we took our mom when she was in a bad state. She had an infection and lost a tooth, and the doc said sit her down, and she has been singing his praises ever since. So I can definitely give you at least that review. So again, thank you, Doc.
No problem.
Welcome to the show, first
thank
of all.
You so much.
But thank you for everything you did for our mom. I'm going to share this story, even though I told you at Contender Series. The Doc is everywhere. He's at Extreme Couture. He's at the Tuesday Night Fights. I mean, he loves MMA, and that's why he works with everybody in the sport of mixed martial arts. But I was telling the Doc, I don't even know if I told you this. Mom told me, when you see him again, you got to thank him again. And she goes, I haven't felt like a kindness since my own brother, because her brother's a dentist. So since your Uncle Carlos used to tend to me, he would always say, ¿Estás bien, hermanita? Are you okay, sister? Yeah. Am I going too rough, or am I this, or am I that? Do you want to take a break, or whatever? She goes, I haven't felt that since I was with Dr. Kim. He was really, really gentle, and so she really, really, really endorsed him. And if you look at the long list of people from, the world of MMA that we know, I mean, everyone's got a smile on their face. I direct you to their Instagram. It's Instagram.com/Hollywood Smile LV, and check out all of the fighters that have rolled through there, including Randy Couture and Valentina Shevchenko. You see Ngannou and Usman in there, Blagoy Ivanov, the other Shevchenko sister, Henry Cejudo, a.k.a. Triple C. The list literally goes on, and they can do it all in that office, surgeries and implants and cleaning. So check it out again. It's Hollywood Smile Dental. It's not very far from the Strip, like 10 minutes away. And they're you guys are Monday through Saturday, right?
Monday through Friday, actually.
Monday through Friday, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So Saturday, Sunday, I see some patient, like if it's emergency, like UFC-related people, they got knocked out or something, Like I see that sometimes I see them on Sunday too,
Yeah.
It's a really emergency situation,
Yeah. So what got you to work with so many of the fighters? Like, what was the connection? Was I heard you telling Eric, I'll see you tomorrow. Was it just basically meeting people from the fact that you're a martial artist too?
Yeah, I've been training kickboxing and MMA for a while. I'm training at Extreme Couture and Fight Capital Gym in Vegas. And when I was little, I used to do nunchuck, and then taekwondo. I'm a black belt in taekwondo.
Okay.
I know how to kick. They kind of interest me. One of the reasons why I moved to Vegas I went to school in Boston, and I moved to Vegas in 2011. One of the reason, it's not the main reason, but one of the reasons I moved to Vegas was I love MMA,
Okay. So you're an MMA fanatic.
Yeah, I love MMA,
And how about the fact that he's a black belt? That means if anybody's a little slow on the collections, you do your own collections, right? So you don't want to be tardy on that, Bill. Well, go ahead, guys.
Well, I was going to say, like, one of the I don't even know if I've ever said this on the show, but when I had first graduated from high school, I wanted to be a dentist like our uncle. So I went to school for that. I'm a registered dental assistant. I did that for a while. So I know a lot of how these places work. And so the first impression that I had when I went into his office was there were a lot of people, right? And so I was like, man, I know what this is. Usually when there's a lot of people, the doctor comes in, he sees you, boom, 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 and then he's out. And that was the thing that stuck with me that was so amazing about Dr. Kim. And I actually wrote him a Yelp review because I was so impressed by this. He takes his time with every patient.
Right.
And, like, there is no stupid question, And so that, I think, is the most impressive thing that he does. And his staff is just awesome. And then it's easy for us to book the show because there's more fighters there than there are at the PI.
It is, yeah. You're right, because when I was there, John Wood, the coach for Syndicate, was there. I saw Jeremy Stevens, and I actually got the phone, and I was booking the show while I was there. But
for, like, people don't understand that, like, it's such a big part of mixed martial arts because, I mean, that's where you're getting hit, is in the mouth, right?
Right.
And there's certain injuries that we've seen. Yeah,
I say that.
There's fighters that you'll see their mouthpiece fall out of their mouth, and what does that tell you? That was a bad mouthpiece. It wasn't fit properly, right?
Yeah.
And your teeth are like the thing you have to protect the most. You want to have those when you're older. You don't want to have to go through problems. And I'm sure Dr. Kim deals with a lot of those types of injuries, a lot of questions that I think George and I, throughout 12 years, we've kind of got some of the answers on. But one of them was just like, what happens if you get a tooth knocked out? We've heard you put it in milk. Or
you could. That's like one of the way to save the tooth. You know, the most important thing is like every minute you're actually losing the vitality of the tooth. You know, if you wait, when the tooth got knocked out, you have to put the tooth in the socket as soon as possible.
Right, straight in.
So it's like dental emergency. You have to basically watch it. You don't have to like scrape it with the thing, because on the tooth loose surface there's like a cell, you know, that you need for the tooth to be attached to the socket. You know. So
let's say I get in a fight and some guy beats me up. He knocks my tooth out. We go our separate ways. It landed on the dirty floor. It doesn't matter. Just pick up the tooth and shove it back in my mouth.
Well, you can wash it with the water, but don't brush it, and just like put it in the thing.
Put it in your mouth.
Or you can go see a dentist as soon as possible. It's considered dental emergency, you know.
But once I put it in my mouth, I'm still going to the dentist.
Yes,
right?
of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so milk is another option?
Yeah, milk is another. You can put in the milk, but the thing is you don't want to wait too long. I mean, try to do it try to place the tooth in the socket as soon as possible, within like a couple hours, you know, maximum, you know. You know, for the tooth to be vital. If the tooth gets non-vital, that means you're gonna end up losing the tooth, you know. So
did you ever see the first UFC when Gerard Gordeau kicked Taylor Tooley and the tooth went flying? The first UFC.
No, I haven't seen
that. It was like 1993. Oh, yeah, that was like such a big moment for the UFC, because everybody's like, well, what's going to happen? The jiu-jitsu guy and the karate guy and this, that, or whatever. And then all of a sudden it was a Dutch guy named Gerard Gordeau. He's like 6'5". He practiced savate, which is, I guess, the martial art in Holland, against Taylor Tooley. And he was basically sumo, right? Yeah, and then they started fighting. He knocked him down and boom, kicked him, and the tooth went flying. And
that's
it was pretty historic.
That's like a most common dental injuries that you've seen in MMA, you know. It's called like aversion of the tooth. Have you heard about the word aversion? AVULSION. Is that dentists use that a lot, you know. It's like displacement of tooth out of its socket. So you basically tooth got displaced, you know. It's trauma.
Were you the one that worked on Randy when Lyoto Machida broke his palate, I believe? That was like a long time ago. I don't know if you're working on
I'm not the one, you know.
Have you ever seen that, though, the broken palate? I guess it's the top of the roof of the mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the cases, but I never worked on a broken palate before. But in that kind of situation, you have to put the metal plate, you know, and then...
That's one hell of a kick.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All right, so let's start from the beginning. The mouthpiece. I wanted to ask you about that. Can you talk about the importance of a custom mouth guard versus just going into a sporting goods, putting it in the boiling water? Because I see a lot of fighters just using the regular mouthpiece, like they don't know any better. But can you talk about that?
Yeah, Bore and Buy mouth guard is like like regular over-the-counter mouth guard. You know, you can get it anywhere, but it's not custom fit. So your mouth guard is most likely to fall out when you get punched. You know, it's hard to breathe. Sometimes the mouth guard is too big. You know, and you have a small mouth. You know. So I recommend for MMA fighters, I recommend to get a custom fitted mouth guard.
Okay.
And depends on the level of mouth guard. There's different type of thickness. There's a 2mm thickness. There's 3mm thickness. There's 4mm thickness. The most commonly used.
That's the separation between top and bottom.
No, I'm talking about thickness of the mouth guard.
Okay.
Yeah. So the mouth guard can be pretty thick and pretty thin. You know, depends on what type of sport they're doing. For MMA fighters, I recommend minimum 3mm thickness.
Okay. And how long does it take to go in there and go through that process? I mean, like you want to do it about 2 weeks before your fight, maybe? Because
5 days is fine.
5 days?
Yeah, 5-6 days is fine.
Okay.
Because
and basically, maybe you can talk about this part. When that saying, when they say, "Man, I knew I had to go for it, so I bit down on my mouthpiece and I went out there and fight." Can you talk about the importance of biting your mouthpiece when you're fighting, when you're in a firefight, versus when you get caught with your mouth open and you get clipped in the jaw? The difference that could be the difference between a knockout, right?
Yeah. So basically, when you see a custom mouth guard, not like a Bore and Buy mouth guard, you're gonna see a bite mark. That's one of the reasons why we have to take the lower jaw impression when they make a mouth guard, custom mouth guard. So you wear the mouth guard on the top, but there's your tooth indentation on the mouth guard. So when you bite on it, it's gonna fit perfect. So when you bite on the guard and fight, your jaw's not gonna move as much. When you get punched.
Now I don't know how public you can get, so it's up to you. But tell me some of the injuries you've seen. Some of the worst injuries you've seen.
I mean, I seen like the worst injury. I seen like a tooth got fractured, and then I couldn't save the tooth, and then I had to unfortunately extract the tooth and then place an implant the same day,
Yeah.
No, that's what's pretty cool. Is
broken jaws. That's not you though, right?
Broken jaw. Usually done in the OR,
I got you.
Yeah.
He can do a lot of implants. So if you go back a couple years, implants was like a specialty that only a certain people like. For him to be able to do them and do them as quick as he does them, that's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And his extractions. How fast does it take for you to pull out a tooth? I couldn't believe this.
Quick.
So wisdom teeth. I'm always afraid to get my wisdom teeth out. How fast would you pull?
4 wisdom teeth is the most I can do. I pull out 4 impacted wisdom teeth on my assistant. It took me 7 minutes. I time it.
7 minutes for 4?
4, yeah.
Shit.
So you gotta.
Are you awake?
To go in there. And
You can be awake. I can put you to sleep. I have an IB sedation license too. I can put you to sleep if you're like scared,
Have you ever been like with your foot on the chair and yanking and that? No.
But it's like an art to it because if he pulls too hard or squeezes too high, he can break it, right? And then that's a mess. You got to go in. You got to
it's more hard. It's harder.
He can like pull them out, which is.
Well, how do you know that?
impressive.
Like, do you see him?
Because I've seen him. Well, he did it to Mom. He had to take a couple teeth out of Mom.
Okay. You were there.
But I asked him about wisdom teeth because mine are impacted, and for him to be able to do that in that time is pretty impressive.
So combination of skill and forearms, I work on a lot of forearms, as you can see.
How often do you train MMA?
Like 3-4 times a week,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ray Sefo is my trainer.
Nice. So you go in there,
at
and
Extreme
hit
Couture,
some pads and stuff.
Yeah,
like
some pads. I do like boxing sparring every Saturday with some UFC fighters.
I know the fighters come to you,
Yeah.
and I've seen you at Dana White Contender Series. But do you have an official capacity to tend to any fighters while you're there? Or are you just there as a fan when they?
I'm going there as a fan,
Okay.
Yeah, I love MMA,
Right.
Yeah,
but otherwise, they'll send them to you the next day.
Yeah, whenever like they have like dental related injury, they usually call me,
Mm-hmm.
and let me know. I mean, what's going on.
Yeah. How many fighters would you say you've seen? Like 100, 500? Is it up there?
A lot, including amateurs,
Yeah.
quite a bit,
You have the whole UFC roster? Like, do you have a contract with them, or
I don't have a contract with him. I think like Dana White. I think I seen Dana White a long time ago in my office, and then I guess he referred me some patient, and then some of the UFC people, I know,
Yeah.
So,
wow, that's awesome, man. Ngannou's been in there.
Yeah.
Kamaru Usman's been in
Yeah,
there. Everybody's usually pretty cool. I mean,
they're pretty cool. They're nice people. Yeah.
When you visit the dentist, isn't it one of the more stressful ones or something like that for people? Those visits.
Yeah, people get nervous.
Yeah. So I just don't know if they're coming in there like pissed off or if they just.
They're pretty happy,
Pretty happy.
Yeah, in the office,
I think it's mostly like most people just don't understand what's. So you get an anxiety because you don't know. But if the dentist explains everything to you, then you feel like you're in good hands, right? It's same way when you go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm. What about little babies? Is that difficult to do?
Little babies? You mean the baby as a patient?
Or kids? Yeah.
Kids, I have a doctor who can see a little kid. I don't usually see kid, but I have a doctor.
What's the oldest one can take out wisdom?
I usually recommend anybody over 15.
Okay, but what's the oldest?
Oldest, 45. I mean, it depends on it's not the age, I mean, if some people like I've seen the patient, who's like late 40s, and then came in because of wisdom tooth pain. In that case, I had to remove it. I mean,
it can give people headaches, right?
Yeah, you can have a headache, earache. A lot of pain. You can get tired from it.
Yeah.
So Cub Swanson is a fighter who one time had to pull out of a fight because of his wisdom teeth, and he was getting infections, and he didn't really feel the pain, but the infections were zapping his cardio.
Yeah, you cannot
figure. So he had to get him out.
Yeah.
If you had to pull wisdom teeth from Francis Ngannou and Valentina Shevchenko, which one's more likely to go ow? Like, who's tougher between those two?
Shevchenko is very tough,
I know. He's tough, right?
She's very tough, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe Ngannou might go ow before Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah. It's a different type of pain, though. I mean, it's like, dental pain, and getting punched in the face. It's two different things.
Blagoy Ivanov, Julian Erosa, Henry Cejudo. It's a real cool page. It's www.instagram.com/Hollywood Smile LV. Give me a story about. Have you ever had to go in there like at midnight or 2 a.m. like after a Saturday night pay-per-view or
I had to go in like Sunday,
Yeah, and like
after like a UFC
case.
Some cases, like dental injury, like emergency. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not from here, but they're out of town. They need the treatment as soon as possible. I have to see.
Is it a name you can share, or is that more private?
I'll say like more private. You know?
More private.
Yeah.
Yeah, we better play it safe.
Yeah.
These are fighters.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And your practice is Monday through Friday. You general public. You have kids, older athletes. It doesn't matter.
We see everybody. You know, we don't do braces though. That's the only thing we don't do. I have a lot of surgical like background. You know, I used to go to Texas like just for the surgery. Like 4 years. They fly me all over like San Antonio, Texas, and Houston and Dallas, all over just for the surgery. I did like wisdom teeth extraction for them, and then implants. You know.
All right, rapid fire. Colgate or Crest?
It's just a brand, you know. I mean, it's just
the same thing.
Yeah, it's a kind of similar, you know. It's just name of brand, you know.
Sonic or Oral-B?
That's the same thing too, you know. I use Oral-B though. I use Oral-B. Yeah, I do.
Floss 1 time or 2 times a day?
I mean, the more the better, right?
Yeah. I heard sometimes you can ruin the gum.
But I recommend a water pick though. I mean, floss can actually when you floss, some people bleed a lot. So
water pick,
yeah, it's better for the gum, you know.
Really?
My personal opinion, yeah. So you don't like damage the gum.
Are the vibrating toothbrushes good?
Yeah,
or is it a gimmick?
I use electronic, yeah. Yeah, it's better, you know. I mean, it cleans better, you know.
All right, but for sure, Crest. What was the other one? Aquafresh.
Aquafresh is like $2. That's
that's the cheap one.
Yeah.
Which one do you use? Crest or?
I use Crest, yeah.
Yeah, and then what about as far as like the rinses?
Mouthwash.
Usually people use like Scope or Listerine or whatever. But I noticed there's these other ones that are like teeth whiteners, or they're good for you. Is that like overdoing it, or does every single one of those help?
I mean, that works a little bit, but it's not like like the teeth whitening, like toothpaste and stuff. It works, but I mean, you have to use it like over time, for it to work,
Get a cleaning 2 times a year or 3 times a year?
I recommend it's 2 times a year, every 6 months. Yeah.
Oh.
Depends on the gum though. I mean, some people recommend. I recommend sometimes like four every 4 months, which is like 3 times a year.
We always ask the in-studio guests, can you share a good street fight story? Can you share one? Yeah.
I never had a street fight, to be honest with you.
Really?
The last
in Boston? No fights in Boston?
No, I mean
even as a kid.
Even when I was a kid, I actually knocked out some tall guys when I was like 5th grade.
Okay, what happened?
He was like very tall, and I was a little bit short. I was always a short guy, I knocked out somebody tried to kind of mess with me
in
and a
school?
little bit in school, yeah.
So like a bully?
Yeah, like some bully, So I basically like put him in the corner and just punch him, And then everybody saw me, and
this was in the classroom?
No, after classroom.
Oh, so you said after school we're gonna go meet behind the gym?
There was like when I was like 5th grade. I knocked out some old tall kid,
And there was a big audience there?
There was like 3 or 4 people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the word spread around school?
Yeah, and then nobody like messed with me after that.
So what was it? You threw a 1-2?
1-2 and uppercut, I mean, they thought I was a boxer when I was little.
That's funny, man. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, listen, it's been great having you stop by, and like I say, you've done great stuff for my mom, and my dentist is in California, but I can't do that drive anymore. I think I'm just going to take my business. I'm going to take my business to you. Yeah. Again, folks, it's Hollywood Smile Dental. It's here in Las Vegas on 2425 East Tropicana Avenue. Let me give you the number. If you're ready to do you need some work done, it's 702-240-9200. And like the doctor says, they basically do everything there with the exception of braces, you said, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and for you fighters, amateur, professional, you can go over there and get your custom mouth guard. And Goes, I don't know if you were trying to get a job over there, trying to mention what you did in the past. That was 20 years ago, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember most of
that.
Okay,
I couldn't tell if he was trying to apply for a job over here or not.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, well, thank you very much, Doctor, for stopping by. It's great to learn more about you.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for
again,
having me.
thank you for everything, your friendship and everything. You're a really, really awesome dude. All right, folks. So that is it for today. I want to thank all of our guests, including Randy Couture, Eric Nicksick. Randy's Twitter is easy, @Randy_Couture. Eric's Twitter is @Eric_XCMMA. And the doctor's not on Twitter, but he does have an Instagram page. It's Instagram.com/Hollywood Smile LV. Check it out. They got a lot of follows too, man. It's a poppin' page, if you will, and you can see all of the patients that Dr. Steve Kim has worked on over the years, and you'll see the who's who of mixed martial arts. All right, tomorrow we'll be back in 22 hours, 5 p.m. Pacific, for another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. We don't have our guest lineup just yet, but you know it'll be a good one, just like it has been all week. So stay close. Don't touch that dial. I guess you get the replay of Busted Open coming up here with Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray. I think it's their turn. And that's it. Check out MMA Junkie throughout your day. It's www.mmajunkie.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram at MMA Junkie. For Goes and the Doctor, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.
Thank you so much.